Here's a question for you though. Have you ever been to a place where you've been disappointed and it's been built up and then you go and then you're like, oh god, this isn't as good as I thought?
No, I don't actually know if I have. Maybe in terms of not having the best experience, maybe London is the only place I can think of off the top of my head where I do like bits of London. I went in a heat wave, and London is not set up for a heat wave, and everything's extortionate. Maybe London, but London's still got these like great things in it. So I've never come away from anywhere being like disappointed. I can't think of anywhere I've been like completely down in the dumps about it. London's probably the one that springs to mind as being like the hype it gets versus how good I think it is isn't equal, but I wouldn't say I came away from any trip disappointed. What about you? What would you say?
Yeah, I think I'd be the same. I can't remember really any holiday that I have been severely disappointed that I come back more miserable than when I left. But echoing what you were saying in London, my partner and I went down to London a couple of months ago, as of recording this episode, and again, there was a heat wave down there, not as bad as sometimes it really gets, but the thing I don't really like about London is, and again, this is coming from a Scot, so take it with a pinch of salt, but it's so overcrowded and everything. Like, there's some bridges where I felt as if I had to like fight my way through because, again, I don't know if it's just because there's so many tourists or people don't care, but people have no sense of lane discipline. When you're in like Glasgow, Edinburgh, any place in Scotland even, and you stay on the left, if you want to go one way, people coming towards you will be on the right. That's how you're taught to do it. But here it was like I was weaving in and out. It was like Rocky Balboa. Weave, weave, weave. Okay, we've made it. And I lost my partner. I'm like, oh God, where is she? And turns out she's behind me. But that was a bit weird. The only other thing, and I was telling you this at the time, was we went on a tour bus because we'd walked all around and then we were getting a wee bit tired. And I said, well, because we got the London Pass, which, is this like kind of accumulation of different sites you can see and everything. And yeah, it was like, oh, we've got this ticket free with this pass. So we jumped on the bus and lo and behold, I saw without getting too deep into this particular thing, but we saw the Just Stop Oil people right in front of our bus. And literally, if we were 5 seconds faster, then yeah, we would have been past them. But we were stuck behind them for, of course, like about 15, 20 minutes or something. And obviously you can't get out. Oh, the tooting of the horns, that was a symphony in its own right. But the only other one I can think of, going back to one I was talking about earlier, probably was the Sistine Chapel of all places. Because, I mean, I've been to Italy before. I've been to places like Sorrento, which is beautiful. The Amalfi Coast, if you haven't been there, that is gorgeous. I 100% would recommend that. Rome as well, Pompeii. But if you go to Rome and you see the Vatican, that's amazing as well. But if you go to the Sistine Chapel, the artwork outside of it's beautiful. There's all these amazing paintings, very rich, full of emotion and whatnot. But then you then you get led down this kind of winding staircase, and you have all these Italian guards who are just shushing you constantly as you go
Yeah.
down. And you go into this room and you look up, and I kid you not, it's that the painting where it's God touching Adam's finger. It's tiny. That picture. You look up and you're like, is that it? And of course you've got them yelling in Italian, no photos, no.
It's funny because I actually thought as well, like the Last Judgment, which is on the wall, is a way better piece, and I was like, I was really surprised that the ceiling's actually so famous when it's in the same. I didn't realize it was in the same room as Last Judgment. So when I was like, wow, that sucked, and this is amazing. And yeah, you're not supposed to talk in it or whatever it was, so it was like you're getting constantly shushed all the time. That was weird.
I mean, I've been to Paris before, but Disneyland technically doesn't count. And the last time I was up the Eiffel Tower, yeah, I think Nokia were still in business. So for legal reasons, that's a joke. But yeah, like I've been up the Eiffel Tower and everything, but I've never really been to the Louvre where, they've got the Mona Lisa, and I've heard that there's like far better pieces. It's just because that's widely renowned. And I don't want to say it's the size of an A4 sheet, but that's the way people make out that, oh, it's tiny, you can't see it from a distance and everything. The only other weird one I had, and this might, I mean, I don't want to end in a downer, but this kind of leads into the unfortunate side of cons on holidays, where my brother and I went to Berlin one year. Absolutely fantastic city, mind you, but we went to Checkpoint Charlie, and there seems to be a lot of people cosplaying as American soldiers right in front of it, as if the Cold War never ended. But something that I saw, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, are the petitioners that come up to you and they pretend to be deaf, or, they've got some kind of problem and they try shoving a clipboard in your hands and they want money, essentially. That happened twice to me. That happened once in Berlin and then once in Spain as well. But I mean, other than that and getting conned, I mean, technically the only time I feel as if I've ever been conned was when my brother and I went to Malta and we went to Sicily because I think it was the hotel or whatever company we were with. They organised like a tour to go over there on the ferry. And funny enough, I think that coincided with the Olympics that were in London at the time because it was on the ferry TV. But sorry, that's a side tangent. But we went on this bus tour, and I kid you not, the bus driver actually took us to this random shack in the middle of nowhere, and it had all these jams that they were selling, and it turned out it was his friend or something like that. The tour guide knew the guy who sold the jams, and literally in all the guest book it was like, why the hell are we here? Why are we here to thingy jam? And then at the very end they took us to this volcano that was there, but of course we ran out of time to actually go up it because we were too busy, pardon my language, too busy fanning about with jam to actually go see it. So the insult to injury, of course, was when we were coming back in the bus and they had the nerve to put on the DVD about all the wonderful things you can do in Sicily, and then they had the cheek to ask for a tip to go drinking, and it was like, that'll be right. But yeah, have you ever experienced that?
I've actually been quite lucky for that kind of thing. Obviously, you get various scams. Just have to don't hold on to anything that people offer you. But yeah, I've actually been quite lucky for that. But you do hear a lot of stories. My uncle works on a cruise ship, and he will go out and sample tours before they offer it to people. And yeah, he went on one in Egypt, and apparently it was like 10 stops, and it was just all just random stuff like that. I was like, oh, my mate owns this shop, and it was like. It's like, why are we here? Yeah, I think that happens quite a lot, especially when you've got just like a busload of tourists.
Funny enough, speaking of Egypt, I remember I was looking at, I think it was like a photo someone had taken from the pyramids, and it's a place that I've never been myself, but they always make it out as if the pyramids are like miles
Oh,
and
yeah,
miles
yeah.
away from civilization, and literally the guy turned his camera and the city's just like right there. You could be working in an office block, look out your window and be like, oh yeah, there's the pyramids. The amount of times I've looked at it and been like, oh yeah, there's like a famous hill. I'm like, okay. You know, and people are like, oh my god, it's so scenic, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah, I suppose it is.